The village of Iwai was once again at peace. The battle against Koro had been fierce, but Yetunde had triumphed. The land was healing, and the spirits of the ancestors whispered in the wind, guiding her as she returned home. Yetunde stood at the edge of the village, watching the sun rise over the horizon. It was a new day, and with it came new hope. The land had been scarred, but it would recover. Beside her, Abike stood, his hand on her shoulder. "You've done it," he said softly. "You've saved us all." Yetunde smiled, her heart full of gratitude and pride. "We've all done it," she replied. "The spirits, my ancestors, the land, it is together that we are strong." Her son, Abike, ran to her, his laughter filling the air. Yetunde bent down to scoop him up, her heart swelling with love. The future was uncertain, but for now, the world was at peace. As the baobab tree stood tall behind her, a symbol of life and resilience, Yetunde knew that her journey was not over. The forest, the spirits, and the people of Iwai were all her responsibility now, and she would protect them with all her strength. The aftermath of the battle was a time of reflection for Yetunde. In the days that followed Koro's defeat, life in the village of Iwai returned to a semblance of normality. The land began to heal, and the once withered baobab tree regained its vibrant glow, its ancient branches reaching toward the heavens. Yetunde had become a symbol of hope and strength, a true leader of the people. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Yetunde sat beneath the baobab tree, her heart calm but her mind restless. There was a peace that had settled over the land, but she knew that peace could not last forever. The world had a way of testing those who stood in its way, and Yetunde was prepared for whatever would come next. Beside her, Abike sat quietly, his presence a comfort. "Do you ever wonder, my love," he asked, his voice soft, "how long the peace will last?" Yetunde looked at him, her gaze steady. "I don't know. I can only hope it lasts for as long as it needs to. We fought hard for this peace, and I will not allow anything to take it from us." Abike nodded, squeezing her hand. "Whatever comes, we will face it together." And as the evening stars began to twinkle above them, Yetunde closed her eyes, the familiar sound of the wind rustling through the leaves of the baobab tree bringing her a sense of calm. The peaceful days that followed were not to last. One afternoon, as Yetunde walked through the village, a stranger arrived. The man appeared from the forest, his clothes tattered and worn, his face shadowed by the brim of his wide hat. His eyes glowed with an unsettling intensity, and there was something about him that made the villagers uneasy. "I seek the protector of the land," the man announced, his voice low and gravely. "I have come with urgent news." Yetunde, sensing the weight of his words, approached him with caution. "I am Yetunde, the protector of this land. What news do you bring?" The stranger looked around nervously, as if expecting someone to jump out at any moment. "There are forces at work beyond your understanding, forces that even I fear. I have come to warn you, to ask for your help." Yetunde's heart quickened. "Speak plainly, stranger." The man lowered his voice, his words barely a whisper. "The balance you fought so hard to restore is under threat once more. There is another force, one older and more powerful than Koro, seeking to rise. This time, it will not be so easily defeated." The stranger's words echoed in Yetunde's mind as she returned to her home. The sense of peace that had settled over Iwai began to feel fragile. Another threat loomed in the shadows, one even more dangerous than Koro. Yetunde could feel it in her bones. This was not just a warning, but a prophecy of things to come. She sat by the baobab tree, her fingers tracing the ancient markings on its bark. The tree had always been a source of strength, a guide to her in times of uncertainty. But now, the whispers she had once heard seemed distant, as if the spirits were holding something back. "Abike," she called softly. He came to her side, sensing her unease. "There's something I must do," she said, her voice filled with determination. I need to uncover more about this new threat. I need to learn what lies hidden in the ancient roots of this land. Ode placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. What are you planning? Yetunde stood, her gaze fixed on the baobab tree. I will seek out the ancient text. The elder spoke of a dark power, sealed away long ago. It is time to find out what it is. The journey to uncover the truth was not an easy one. Yetunde visited the village elders, seeking any knowledge they might have on the dark power the stranger had spoken of. After days of searching, she found herself standing before an ancient chamber deep within the heart of the forest, a chamber that had been forgotten by time. The entrance was hidden beneath layers of vines and overgrown plants, the stone door marked with symbols that Yetunde had never seen before. She pushed against the door, which creaked open with a groan, revealing a passage leading deep into the earth. With a sense of trepidation, Yetunde stepped inside. The air was thick with dust and the scent of age, and the walls were covered in faded carvings. As she walked deeper, the dim light from her torch illuminated strange, ancient symbols, and she could feel the weight of history pressing down on her. Finally, she reached the heart of the chamber, a large stone altar, adorned with relics and artifacts long forgotten. At the center of the altar, an ancient book lay open, its pages yellowed and fragile. Yetunde approached cautiously, her heart pounding as she began to read the words written in a language she had never seen before. The ancient book revealed a chilling truth. The dark power the stranger had warned her about was not a mere force of nature. It was a being, a godlike entity from the dawn of time, sealed away by the ancestors to prevent it from wreaking havoc on the world. This entity, known as Olodumare, was said to have the power to undo all creation and plunge the world into eternal darkness. Yetunde's mind raced as she read the account of Olodumare's banishment. The book described how the ancestors had used a powerful magic to trap the entity deep beneath the earth, ensuring that it would never rise again. But now, it seemed that the seal was weakening. The land was suffering, and the poison that had once consumed the baobab tree was a sign that Olodumare's influence had begun to seep through. I must stop this, Yetunde whispered to herself. The knowledge of Olodumare's power filled her with dread, but she knew she could not ignore it. The land, the people, and the very world she loved were in grave danger. With the weight of her discovery on her shoulders, Yetunde returned to the village. She shared the news with Ode, who stood by her, his face etched with concern. You must stop this, Yetunde, he said. But how? Yetunde's gaze was unwavering. I don't know yet, but I will find a way. The book spoke of a ritual, an ancient rite that can strengthen the seal and keep Olodumare locked away. But to perform it, I will need the help of the elders and the power of the forest itself. She called upon the village's most trusted elders, asking them to assist her in preparing for the ritual. They worked day and night, gathering sacred herbs, chanting incantations, and seeking the blessings of the spirits. The ritual would be dangerous, and there was no guarantee it would work. But Yetunde knew it was their only hope. As the full moon rose in the sky, Yetunde stood before the baobab tree, the elders by her side. The air was thick with anticipation, and the ground beneath them seemed to hum with power. With a deep breath, Yetunde began the incantation, calling upon the spirits of the ancestors to guide her. The ritual was unlike anything Yetunde had ever experienced. The air crackled with energy as the elders chanted in unison, their voices rising in a powerful crescendo. The baobab tree, glowing with ethereal light, seemed to respond, its branches swaying as though it were alive. Yetunde felt a surge of power as the spirits answered her call, their presence filling the air. She continued to chant, her voice steady, as the ground beneath her began to tremble. The ritual had begun, and there was no turning back now. Suddenly, the earth cracked open, and a dark shadow emerged from beneath the ground. It was Olodumare, in all its terrifying power, a being of pure darkness and destruction. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light as it rose from the earth, its form shifting like smoke. But Yetunde did not flinch. She held her ground, her voice never wavering. The spirits of the ancestors surged through her, and with a final, powerful cry, she called upon the full force of the land. The battle between Yetunde and Olodumare was like nothing the world had ever seen. The very earth seemed to quake as the two forces clashed, light against darkness. The baobab tree, standing tall in the background, glowed with the power of the ancestors, its roots deep in the earth, feeding Yetunde with strength. Olodumare's dark energy lashed out, threatening to consume everything in its path. Yetunde stood firm, channeling the power of the spirits into her every move. She felt the weight of her ancestors' strength guiding her, pushing her forward as she fought to keep the land safe. With every strike, Olodumare grew weaker, its dark form flickering. But it was not yet defeated. The battle would be long and hard, and Yetunde knew that only with the combined strength of the spirits and the land could she stand a chance of winning. The battle raged on, an epic struggle between Yetunde and Olodumare that shook the heavens themselves. The ground beneath their feet cracked and shattered, the sky darkened, and the winds howled with the fury of the gods. Yetunde's strength was starting to wane. She could feel the power of Olodumare's darkness seeping into her, threatening to overwhelm her. The ancient magic of the ritual, however, continued to pulse within her, its light fighting against the encroaching darkness. With every pulse of the ritual's magic, Yetunde's resolve grew stronger. She knew she couldn't face Olodumare alone, she needed the strength of her people, the land, and the spirits of the ancestors to overcome this terror. The air crackled with tension as she shouted a call for unity, her voice carrying across the battlefield. In response, the baobab tree trembled, its roots stirring in the earth. The forest, the land, and the spirits of the ancestors responded to Yetunde's cry, their power surging into her, renewing her strength. With newfound energy, she pushed back against Olodumare's dark force. The shadow that had consumed the land flickered, faltering under the combined might of Yetunde and the spirits. Despite the surge of power that Yetunde now wielded, Olodumare was not easily defeated. Its form shifted and morphed, becoming a swirling mass of shadow and smoke, attacking with an almost unnatural speed. Yetunde could feel the weight of its evil intentions bearing down on her. She had to think quickly, or the land would fall to the darkness. With a sudden insight, Yetunde remembered a fragment of the ancient text she had read in the chamber beneath the earth. The book had spoken of a final, desperate measure, a sacrifice that would either seal Olodumare away forever or destroy everything in its wake. She knew what she had to do. Abike, she called, her voice urgent. Prepare the sacred offering. I need the heart of the land to strengthen the final seal. Abike rushed forward, carrying a sacred bowl filled with the essence of the land's most powerful herbs. Yetunde could see the concern in his eyes, but there was no time to explain. The moment of sacrifice was upon them. As Abike placed the bowl in front of her, Yetunde reached out, drawing from the deep well of the earth's energy. She began the incantation, invoking the spirits of the land to guide her. The ground beneath her feet began to tremble once more. The ritual that Yetunde had started was unlike anything the world had ever witnessed. The earth itself seemed to respond to her words, shifting and groaning under the weight of the magic she was invoking. The power was immense, but it came at a price. Yetunde could feel the energy draining from her body, the very life force of the land pouring into her as she called upon the deepest magics to fight Olodumare's influence. The baobab tree, the very heart of the land's magic, began to glow with an intense light, its branches twisting and bending as though alive. Yetunde's vision blurred as the overwhelming force of the ritual surged through her. Her body shook with the effort to contain the immense power, but she held her ground. Abike, Yetunde whispered, her voice strained. Do not let go. This is our last chance. Olodumare howled in fury as Yetunde's power swelled, the dark entity twisting and writhing, its form unable to withstand the ancient magic. Yetunde's fingers began to crack with energy, and she felt a deep pull within her, something dark, ancient, and terrible. As Yetunde continued to channel the power, she felt herself being drawn into a place beyond the mortal realm, a place where time and space had no meaning. She was alone, surrounded by endless darkness, with only the faint whispers of the spirits to guide her. Her mind raced, searching for a way to complete the ritual. In the distance, she saw a figure, a shadowy form that flickered in and out of existence. It was Olodumare, its true form revealed in its full, terrifying glory. Yetunde knew that if she failed here, if she could not resist its pull, the world as she knew it would cease to exist. The figure reached out toward her, its voice a low, hypnotic whisper. "You are not strong enough, Yetunde. You cannot hold back the darkness forever. Join me. Together, we can reshape this world." Yetunde felt the temptation pull at her soul, but she fought against it. She knew that to give in would mean the end of everything she loved. With every ounce of strength, she pushed back against Olodumare's will. "I will never join you," she declared, her voice unwavering. The darkness roared, but Yetunde's resolve held. She had made her choice. Yetunde's vision cleared as she returned to the mortal realm. The power of the ritual surged within her, and she could feel the very fabric of reality shaking. Olodumare, too, was struggling, its form flickering in and out of existence. The battle between light and darkness was reaching its peak. She could hear the voices of the spirits all around her, their whispers guiding her. With a deep breath, Yetunde called upon every ounce of her strength. She raised her hands to the sky, summoning the final power needed to seal Olodumare away. The baobab tree, now glowing with a blinding light, sent a shockwave through the ground. Yetunde's heart pounded in her chest as she felt the land responding to her call. The earth itself seemed to fight against Olodumare's dark influence, pushing it back with an unstoppable force. Olodumare let out a final, screeching howl, its form collapsing under the weight of Yetunde's power. In that moment, the light of the baobab tree exploded, and a brilliant flash of energy engulfed the land. The world fell silent. The air grew still, and the earth beneath Yetunde's feet became solid once more. The land had been freed from Olodumare's influence, and the darkness that had once threatened to consume everything began to dissipate. Yetunde stood, breathing heavily, her body exhausted but her spirit unbroken. Beside her, Ode approached cautiously, his face full of concern. "Yetunde," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. "You did it. You saved us all." Yetunde turned toward him, a faint smile on her lips. "It was not just me," she said. "The spirits, the land, and the people of Iwoi, they all played a part in this victory." The baobab tree, its branches now glowing with a soft, golden light, stood tall in the distance. It was a symbol of hope, a reminder of the strength of the land and the people who had fought to protect it. Yetunde knew that her journey was far from over, but for now, there was peace. Although Yetunde had defeated Olodumare, she knew that the cost of victory was great. The power she had called upon had drained much of her energy, leaving her physically weak and emotionally spent. The land, too, would need time to heal. As Yetunde and Ode made their way back to the village, the weight of the past few days settled heavily on her shoulders. The village was safe, but the scars of the battle were still visible in the cracked earth and the withered trees. It would take time for the land to fully recover, but Yetunde knew that the people of Iwoi were resilient. They had survived the darkness, and they would rebuild. The villagers gathered around her, offering their gratitude and admiration. Yetunde nodded to them, her heart full of love for the people she had sworn to protect. But deep within her, she felt a growing unease. She had defeated one great evil, but how many more would rise to challenge her? As the sun rose over Iwoi, Yetunde stood atop the hill overlooking the village. The world was healing, and the land was beginning to thrive once more. The baobab tree, its branches now covered in new leaves, was a symbol of the land's resilience. Yetunde could feel the power of the earth beneath her feet, strong and steady. In the distance, she saw Ade approaching, a smile on his face. "It's a new dawn," he said, his voice filled with hope. "We've made it through the darkest night." Yetunde smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. The battle was over, but the journey was far from complete. There would always be challenges to face, but she was no longer afraid. She had proven that with the strength of the land and the unity of her people, no darkness could ever truly overcome them. Together, Yetunde said, her voice filled with resolve, "We will face whatever comes next." The peace that had settled over Iwe was fragile. Though the darkness had been vanquished, a sense of unease lingered in the air. Yetunde could feel it in her bones, a gnawing sense that something was not quite right. The land was healing, but the shadows of the past were still fresh in her mind. She knew that the power of Olodumare was not truly gone. One night, as she sat near the baobab tree, the wind whispered a warning. The spirit spoke in hushed tones, reminding her that evil was never truly destroyed, it simply lay dormant, waiting for the right moment to rise again. Yetunde's heart grew heavy with the weight of this knowledge. The battle with Olodumare had been a victory, but she feared it was only the beginning of a much darker struggle. "Ade," she called, her voice low and full of concern. "I fear this peace is temporary." Ade, who had been with her through every trial, nodded gravely. "I share your fear, Yetunde. The land is healing, yes, but there are forces at work beyond our sight. We must remain vigilant." The village of Iwe continued to rebuild, but strange occurrences began to happen. Crops withered for no apparent reason, animals grew restless, and a sense of dread began to seep into the hearts of the people. It was as if the land itself was warning them of an impending storm. One evening, Yetunde gathered the village elders to discuss the troubling signs. As they sat in the circle, the eldest elder, Baba Iriti, spoke in a voice heavy with years of wisdom. "The land is restless because the prophecy has not been fulfilled." Yetunde frowned, confused. "What prophecy?" Baba Iriti's eyes grew somber. "The prophecy of the 2 moons. It speaks of a time when a great evil shall rise again, stronger than before. It is said that only the one who defeated Olodumare can prevent it, but they must make a great sacrifice to do so." The weight of Baba Iriti's words hit Yetunde like a thunderclap. She had believed that Olodumare's defeat would end the darkness forever, but now she saw that the battle was far from over. As Yetunde pondered the prophecy, she began to experience strange dreams. In them, she was standing on the edge of a vast, empty chasm, surrounded by swirling shadows. A figure emerged from the darkness, its face obscured by a hood. Its voice echoed in her mind, sending chills down her spine. "You have not seen the full scope of the darkness," the figure intoned. "It is coming for you, Yetunde. You cannot escape your fate." Yetunde awoke from the dream in a cold sweat, her heart pounding. She knew that this warning was not just a figment of her imagination. The spirits were trying to tell her something important. She felt the weight of their message, a new evil was rising, and she would be forced to confront it once again. She went to the baobab tree for guidance. As she knelt in reverence, the wind picked up, swirling around her. The tree's branches creaked and groaned, and a voice, ancient and deep, filled her mind. "Prepare yourself, Yetunde. The final trial is upon you." Days passed, but the signs continued to grow stronger. One morning, a traveler arrived at the village. His appearance was strange, with eyes as dark as the night sky and a cloak that seemed to shimmer with an unnatural darkness. He carried an aura of malevolence that sent shivers through the villagers. Yetunde knew at once that this man was no ordinary traveler. He was a messenger, sent by the forces of darkness. The stranger approached Yetunde, his gaze cold and unwavering. "You have not finished what you started," he said, his voice like a snake's hiss. "The world is not yet ready for peace. I have come to ensure that it never will be. Yetunde stood tall, her hand resting on the hilt of her blade. I will not allow you to bring more suffering to my people, she declared, her voice filled with conviction. The stranger smiled, a cold, cruel expression. You are no match for the power that lies ahead. With a swift motion, he vanished into the wind, leaving behind only the echo of his words. Yetunde could feel the weight of the stranger's words lingering in her mind. She had faced darkness before, but this felt different, more insidious, more powerful. As she walked through the village, the faces of the people seemed clouded with fear. They could sense it too, the darkness was returning, and they were powerless to stop it. Late that night, Yetunde went to the baobab tree once more, seeking guidance. As she sat in meditation, a vision came to her, a vision of the very core of the darkness. It was a swirling vortex, a black hole that seemed to consume everything in its path. In the center of the vortex stood a figure, one she recognized all too well. It was Olodumare, but this time, he was not alone. Surrounding him were other dark entities, each more powerful and terrifying than the last. Yetunde's heart raced as she realized the truth. Olodumare had been merely a servant of a far greater evil, one that was now awakening. The battle for the soul of the world had only just begun. Yetunde knew that the only way to stop this new evil was to make the ultimate sacrifice. The prophecy had spoken of it, and the spirits had confirmed it. But what was the sacrifice? And could she truly bear the cost? She sought counsel from Baba Ariti, who spoke in a voice filled with sorrow. The prophecy speaks of the heart of the land. It is a powerful, ancient source of energy that binds the land to the people. If you wish to stop the darkness, you must be willing to give up your connection to the heart of the land. You must sever the bond you have with it forever. Yetunde's heart sank. The heart of the land was what gave her the strength to protect her people. To give it up would mean losing her power, her connection to the land, and perhaps even her very life. But she knew what she had to do. I will do it, she said, her voice resolute. The day of reckoning arrived. The forces of darkness had gathered, their power swelling as they prepared to unleash their final assault. Yetunde stood at the edge of the battlefield, the baobab tree standing tall behind her. She could feel the energy of the land coursing through her, but she knew that the time had come to sever her bond with it. As the dark army advanced, Yetunde closed her eyes, focusing all her energy on the heart of the land. With a final, powerful prayer, she let go. The energy of the land surged one last time through her, but it was no longer a part of her. The ground beneath her feet cracked, and a blinding light erupted from the baobab tree. The forces of darkness recoiled in fear, but it was too late. The power of the heart of the land had been unleashed in full force, banishing the darkness once and for all. The evil entities were swept away, their presence erased from the world. Yetunde collapsed to the ground, exhausted and broken, but victorious. The battle was over. The darkness had been vanquished, and peace had returned to Iwoi. But for Yetunde, it was a bittersweet victory. She had given up everything, her connection to the land, her power, and her very essence. She was no longer the protector of the land. But as she stood once more before the baobab tree, she felt a new sense of purpose rise within her. The land was healing, and the people were rebuilding. Though she no longer held the magic of the land, she knew that she would continue to protect her people in other ways. Ade, Yetunde said, her voice filled with quiet determination. We have won, but the journey never ends. There will always be challenges, but together, we will face them. And with that, a new chapter began for Yetunde and the people of Iwoi, a chapter built on strength, resilience, and the unwavering belief that no darkness could ever extinguish the light of hope.